photograph of one of my paintings. I say photograph because the original painting has more to it than just paint on canvas. It's paint on a person. The painting's physically alive. Everything in the scene is covered in paint in a way to make it look like a two-dimensional painting. When I first started doing this, it was really hard to explain to people what was going on. You see a video and you understand that it's alive. You see a photo and you just can't quite wrap your head around it. And I'm going to be speaking more to how to communicate this idea of dimensionality in my art. But first, a question that everyone always asks is, how did I start doing this? How did I come up with this idea? I was really interested in shadows. I wanted to know what it would look like if I painted shadows on the ground. And then I started thinking about, like, what if, in addition to painting the shadows, I painted the highlights? And what if I did that on a person? So I took my friend. I very faithfully then began to paint the mapping of light on his body. And I wanted to make sure to do it exactly how I visualized it. The thing was, the results, even though it was what I had expected, were completely unexpected. They had somehow turned my friend into a painting. I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't believe the photo. And that's something that I have a lot of difficulty with communicating to people, because they see a picture and I can explain it to them and they could believe me, but they might also believe in Photoshop, and their first instinct is to say, that can't be possible. Even seeing a reveal photo, it's really hard to wrap your head around the 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions merging together. I like to try to make particular pieces of artwork that express that. In this self-portrait, it's the artist painting her own portrait, but physically on the artist, so there's multiple levels of portraiture in there. And then what if you take a painted person and bring them away from the painted background and completely into our 3-dimensional world? A lot of people will see this and go like, that's great, but what is it? Like, you can't sell the person at the end of the day. And that's some difficulty I run into my artwork, is categorizing and explaining it. Because it's part photography, part painting, part installation, but at the end of the day, the way most people experience it is just as a photo. And that misses so many dimensions of the experience. One of the things, though, that's convenient about photos is you can exhibit them in pretty galleries, and people know how to buy pictures of things in photo form. But that is to deny so much of the experience of my art. It's living, it's breathing. The only way to get that dimension to it is to physically be there. And a lot of people will want to know, okay, how can they see my art? When am I going to do it? The thing is that, like most artists, creating my work is very private and personal. And when I do try to bring it in public, it draws a lot of attention and crowds. And sometimes I just need privacy in order for the real magic to happen. This was real. She had no idea that it was coming. Her painted boyfriend proposed to her, and it was incredible. When I do public exhibitions that I invite people to, they have capacity issues. For this show at the Exploratorium, 5,000 people came out, reached capacity. It was a mess. And there's not many venues that could hold that, so it's not very accessible to a lot of people. And I want to find a way that people who are curious about understanding the 2 and 3 dimensions at the same time can really experience it. And so then I could take my artwork to more public places, like the middle of an intersection in Tokyo, where thousands of people every minute are coming by and experiencing it. And that's part of what I see at the experience of the art, is physically being there in person. People are watching, they're taking pictures, and there's something to it, to being live. One of the problems with creating it live, though, is that it's not scalable. I mean, I could go to many cities and create many of these paintings in giant intersections, but still, if someone's curious about my artwork, it's very inconvenient for them to experience it. Then I was at this conference called the EG, and I met a guy named Alex Henry. He spoke here yesterday about avatars. And in case you missed your talk, here's a little recap of the type of work he does.
Last 2.5 years developing a 3D capture system called the XX array. It captures your physical likeness in full 3D in less than a second and produces a digital avatar that can be prepped for 3D printing, a video game, virtual reality, and more.
He said and more, and I was like, ooh, that means and me and my paintings. This would finally be a way that I would be able to share my paintings with more people who couldn't physically be there. So I went to Alex's studio in LA, painted people in his photo booth, 91 cameras fired all at once to capture the image, rendered together to create a perfect three-dimensional form, an absolute, full, high fidelity, every brushstroke, every detail captured. And I saw this, and I thought, wow, okay, that's cool. You know, maybe I could put this in a VR headset, and people would be able to experience it. But part of me felt resistance, because I had taken so much pride in that my artwork was live, that it was humans, that it was performative, and just doing a recreation of the artwork in a digital world felt uncomfortable to me. And I was hesitant to show this experience to people, and then we decided to go for it. And I was scared that people wouldn't believe that this would be a good use of virtual reality. One thing I found was that the experience of experiencing my three-dimensional forms that appear two-dimensional in virtual reality, it adds a whole nother dimension to the experience. You can be standing within this virtual gallery space, come close to the art, and then physically step inside of it and explore it from any angle. And I realized that in this way, in participating with the art, it's a completely different paradigm than what I thought it meant to participate in my art, which I thought that meant standing on the outside taking a picture. And then it turned out actually an even more meaningful way to participate is by being inside the picture. When I was inside my own picture, it felt like a complete shift of my own perspective. I thought that I had known my art through and through, and I'd even painted myself and been in it, and yet this was a whole different way of experiencing it. And it wasn't a replication of an in-person experience that I was expecting. Yes, it captured every detail absolutely perfectly, but it created something that seemed even more meaningful than being there in real life by creating this moment of being part of the artwork. And it was actually really emotional for me to step inside of it. It was completely unexpected. It felt almost like that first moment when I had taken the picture of the shadows painted on my friend and realizing that this whole new dimension had been opened up. And so I think that there are more dimensions in virtual reality than we are expecting. We just have to be ready to accept it. Thank you.